talking about tonight's program with a good friend earlier today, she commented to me, "Oh, that is so LA. Cheech is so LA. In fact, LA royalty." Well, I couldn't agree more. And that's why the library is thrilled to be presenting Cheech Marin in his hometown for his book, and to be welcoming him back to our stage, having shared many memorable moments with him in years past, from his amazing ALOUD interview with Carlos Santana to a surprise performance of Born in East LA at a live event celebrating the library's music collection. Cheech is, by all means, our long-term library friend, and now we have the occasion to congratulate him in the role of author for his first memoir, Cheech is Not My Real Name, But Don't Call Me Chong. And it's also so timely that this program falls the same week that many of us, library included, are celebrating the legacy of civil rights activist Cesar Chavez, who fought for the rights of all. Cesar fought for the rights of all, and specifically for farm workers and Mexican Americans. There's actually an incredible photo in the book from 1979 at East LA College of Cheech and Chong standing by Cesar Chavez's side. Cheech's story is so rich, and throughout the book, you hear his voice telling it. His story is colored with the humor that you know him so well for, but the book shares so much more. And his story paralleled an equally dynamic and unique moment in history, with the Vietnam War underway and a musical revolution galvanizing the nation. Cheech wasn't just along for the ride, he was defining history with his own performance and comedy work, playing sold-out gigs around the nation, receiving a Grammy for Cheech and Chong's album, Los Cochinos, and of course, the pivotal moment when Born in East LA, the song, and then the movie took over the charts and became one of the defining cultural moments of its time. What's so special about the book, though, is that it takes you into those moments, with Cheech as narrator, sharing the finer details, the untold moments, the lesser-known stories of family, his love of Chicano art, and his passion and talent for writing children's books, just to name a few. To prompt those stories from him tonight, joining him on stage is La Marisol Hernandez. Marisoul is the lead singer of the Grammy Award-winning band La Santa Cecilia. Like Cheech, Marisoul is an Angelino tried and true. La Santa Cecilia, in their completely unique and original musical style, addresses some of the very same issues Cheech was addressing in his own work a generation prior. Their band name hails from the patron saint of music, Saint Cecilia, and they got their professional start just a few blocks from here on Olvera Street. Marisoul sings Los Angeles' soul, and we are so honored she accepted our invitation to be here tonight to join Cheech in conversation as a fellow performer, musician, and activist. Don't wait to listen to La Santa Cecilia's most recent album, which you heard tonight, Buenaventura, nominated for a Grammy this year, and see Marisoul and the band live at the Hollywood Bowl this September to launch the ambitious Southern Californian celebration of Los Angeles and Latino art for Pacific Standard Time, LALA. You can also read about the library's participation in this initiative in the program you picked up tonight. So for now, let's give it up for our guests. Together for the first time on stage, we are thrilled to present Cheech Marin and La Marisol Hernandez at ALOUD at the Aratani Theater.
Pues Cheech is not my real name, but don't call me Chong, no? So what is your real name?
Para empezar, my real name is Richard, Dick for short, although not really, you know. But my nickname in my family is Chicharron, because when I was born, I was like day old or 2 days old, and my Uncle Bono came and to see me, and he looked in the crib and said, "Ay, parece un chicharrón," man. A little curled up, all like a little Mexican potato chip, you know, like. And so that was my name. Everybody in my family had 2 or 3 names, and certainly nicknames. And so I became Cheech in the family. But Richard, you know, in daily life.
Richard Marin. And where were you born?
I was born right on this street that we're standing on right now, the South San Pedro, 3609 South San Pedro. Yeah. You know, it's like when you tell people, especially from the neighborhoods or some in LA, where were you from? I said, well, South Central. And, oh, yeah. What part of South Central? You know, like, 36 in San Pedro. Oh, okay. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, you're cool, man. You know, it's like, you know, all right, then back off. You know?
Yeah.
But it was, when I grew up there, it was all black neighborhood. I mean, I was 90-some% black, rest Mexicans, and 1 lost white guy. You know, it was like, but it was cool. I went to Trinity Street School, right down the street, 3609 South, and it was a violent neighborhood. I mean, you know, there was a lot of going on. I saw 2 murders in front of my eyes before I was 7 years old, and it affects you, you know, when you're a kid. And one of the shootings involved my dad, who was a policeman, LAPD, 30 years. He was stopping a burglary in the barbershop next door in the middle of the night, and he saw a guy. The burglar alarm went off, and he saw a little. Looked out. There was a guy in there, and told my mom to call the police, and be sure to tell him that her husband was LAPD and he had a white T-shirt on. That was really important. And so he went in there and he pulled the guy out of the thing and searched him. Took about 2 or 3 straight razors off of him, and it was right outside my window. I was in the back bedroom. It was like that far outside my window. There was a little alley, and they were there. And the guy said, "Well, what are you going to do with me?" He says, "I'm just going to hold you here for the cops, and they're on their way." And you could hear the siren down the street, because I remember that woke me up. There was a siren, and there was always sirens in the neighborhood. You know, it was like, and the guy said, "I'm not going back to prison." And he jumped my dad, boom, knocked the gun out of his hand, and it went down on the concrete. And it had been raining that night, so it was wet, and it was whoever got to that gun first was going to live, you know. And my dad fortunately got there first, and the guy started beating him with an umbrella he had because it had been raining. Bam, bam, bam. My dad turned over, bam, shot him. And then the police that had pouring out of the car on the street, they heard shots. They opened up, bam, bam, bam. This is happening like this far outside of my window. And I'm like, you know, 7 years old, and down on the ground, and that was that, you know. But that was kind of the story of the neighborhood, you know. And it's the same neighborhood now, as only it's total Latino, you know. Same problems, the problems of poverty, but it was.
Yeah, that's like
scary.
heavy for a little kid,
yeah,
you know?
It's like, and I was, and so then we moved from there, in the aftermath, that we moved to Granada Hills. I mean, one day everybody was black, and then the next day everybody was white.
I gotta say, I really like there's a photo in the book, no, and it's the baseball team, no?
Yeah, the Granada Hills Little League, man, and you could see me, like, real plainly.
Yeah.
I'm right in the center, you know, and like it was like going from Nigeria to Knott's Berry Farm, you know, like. The thing that was, is I was always the littlest guy, you know, I was always the littlest kid in the class, up until college, and I was always the littlest guy, so my problems weren't black, white, they were big and small, you know, and I was always on the lookout for big guys, you know. And it was funny because I later on in life I made this movie, The Perfect Game, and it was a story of the Monterrey, Mexico Little League team that were the little guys too, and they won the world championship, and they were little, and I played the priest in that, and I looked exactly like those kids. When you buy the book, it's available out there, you'll see Granada Hill, and I'm right in the center, and I looked exactly like those kids. So I really identified with that, man.
So you were into sports, right? You were in Little League and stuff. But I thought that was something that was really cool, was that you were like also like a straight A student, no? And you say you were like a smart ass, no? And como dicen, chiquito pero picoso, no? Like.
That was me, you know. I was a teacher's worst nightmare. I was a straight A student, but a wise ass, you know, and never shut up. I mean, I wasn't a bad kid, you know. I didn't kill anybody, or anything, but I could never shut up, and I would always had telling jokes and involving everybody around, and they just didn't know what to do with me, you know.
Did you know, like, since you were very like telling jokes, and you seem to be like what you describe in the book, that you were this very like precocious kid, no, that would, you know, very spunky. Did you know very early on that you wanted to be a performer, or when did you say like, this is it, this is what I want to do? Like,
first time I was on stage, I was in kindergarten, and you're in the school musical. You know, comes Christmas and they have like a school musical, and our class played Up on the Rooftop, boom, 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 you know, and for some reason, I got assigned to play the kettle drum, you know, and everybody in the class had these gold stars on a band around their head, and then they were their little guys, and I was behind, and I was always the littlest kid, and so I was behind the kettle drum, and all you could see from the audience was this little star, kind of, and nobody is like, why is that star moving? What's it like? And then I played the kettle, and so the cue came up on the rooftop, and this little hand would come up from and with the mallet, boom, 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 and everybody in the audience cracked up. You know, I heard that, and I thought, well, I didn't even hear him the first time because I was concentrating on hitting that. And then the next time it comes up on the rooftop, boom, 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 and every time I did it, they laughed louder and louder, man. And then I heard it, man, you know, and I go, oh yeah, well this can do it, you know, boom, boom, boom. And from that point forward, I didn't, you know, I entertained other thoughts of what I was going to do, but from that point forward, I know show business for me, you know. Yeah. Because you know you got laughs, you know.
Yeah, like, of course. I feel the same way in that sense. No, when I was I feel like I knew right away when I was a little kid that I wanted to sing. You know, I heard my mother singing, and I never thought, oh, I want to be a dancer or no say a doctor. I knew, no.
Singer?
I love the applausos and the being on stage, even though I was very shy. No, but I love that stuff.
Singers are born. I was thinking about this on the way. No, this is true. Singers are born singers, and they come out singing, and they sing for the rest of their lives. And you know, drummers, like, they're hatched. They're not born, man. You know, like, but singers are. Because I was a singer. I was a little kid singer. I made my first record when I was 5 years old. A friend of my mother's had this little device, you know, they could go direct to disc, and he had this little distribution company in the neighborhood, and I was this little 5-year-old kid that could sing in tune, squeaky, but in tune. Yeah. And I sang, Amorcito Corazón, yo tengo, you know, and that was my first record. I don't know whatever happened to it, but that was, but I always show business.
That must have been awesome to like hear, you know.
Man, that was the most fun, you know.
So you love music, no? You
do.
Love music since you were a kid, and you started playing guitar, no? At like 12 years old, you wanted to get into
when I moved out to Granada Hills, you know, I wanted to have music, and I just, you know, and I bugged my dad I wanted a guitar, you know, so he took me down to the guitar store, you know, and so what kind of guitar? I want that candy apple red electric guitar.
Hell yeah.
And he asked the guy how much it was. I said, you ain't getting no electric guitar, you nada. Like, you know, so I got this whole, a Stella. I don't know if you ever, it's a Stella. It's like a 2x4 with baling wire on it. And all night, you know, my dad would come in the room and like 1, 2, all right, yeah, basta, that's enough. Go to sleep, you know. But music was always my life.
That's cool. I loved reading about your youth, no, going to the Troubadour. Like you were really into folk, no? You loved music. You loved going to concerts when you were younger, no?
Yeah.
How was that? Like, how was that going to the Troubadour? I mean, I grew up in Hollywood, so when I was a teenager, I just wanted to go to gigs, to shows,
to go
and
to Hollywood, man.
Yeah.
Like, when I was in high school, it was during the folk scare of the '60s, you know. But I was a little Chicano kid. Well, you started off that way, you know. But I don't know a little Chicano king singing about Gypsy Davy-O roaming the countryside, you know. But everybody, you know, they bought it. But and so I had this little group of folk singer friends, you know. We were traditionalists, only sang child ballads and also, until the Beatles came along.
Yeah.
And I heard the Beatles, man. Oh, this is cool. I like this music because the first record I ever bought was Sweet Little 16 by Chuck Berry. And bless his soul, he just passed on.
Yeah, Chuck Berry.
He put the roll in rock and roll, man. You know,
course,
and
yeah.
he was, so I was always a record collector and listening to those music. And then the Beatles came along. I heard it. I heard Chuck Berry and the Beatles. You know.
Yeah, of course.
I knew the foundations that it was built on. And I started listening to this music. All my folky friends, man, you know. Oh, okay, well, whatever. But so I went to see Hard Day's Night the very first day it came out. And I watched it 3 times in a row, and I didn't leave the theater, and I was just transformed, you know.
Yeah.
And I want to drag my folky friends into it, and as soon as they saw it, they became Beatle fanatics, especially the girls. And the guys tried to grow their hair fast as they could, man. Changed the whole deal, man. You know.
That's how I feel right now. I'm trying to grow my hair too.
Yeah, me too. Just gets in my eyes, you know.
Oh yeah, so you're growing up in LA. You go to college, and I mean, this whole draft thing is going on, the Vietnam War. How was that for you? You know, being a young college student living in LA. I mean, there was so much going on in the city, culturally, politically.
It was great, man, you know. I mean, I was really a straight A student, altar boy, choir boy, got the religion award in 8th grade, and my dad was a cop, and, you know, and my family, the 2 of my cousins became priests, and my other girl cousin became a nun for a long time. But I was going to be a priest, and I took the test, and my clothes, I was the junior seminary. They start you in high school, and St. Vincent's Seminary in Montebello. Yeah. Some homies there, ex-priest. And it was in 8th grade, and I was getting ready to go when my clothes were there, and I started going to parties, you know. And you know, and wait a minute, no girls in the priesthood. Let me rethink this thing, right? You know?
Yeah. Serious.
And so then when I went to college, you know, I went to Cal State Northridge. It was Valley State then. Hey, all right.
State Northridge, totally.
More alumni. I like that. And so I got there, and then, you know, I was on my own. I was off the leash for the first time in my life, and I came home to my apartment. I was sharing the apartment with these guys, and came home one night after work. I worked a lot, and there's a party going on, real smoky, you know. I'm like, it was cool. And my roommate Jerry Hyman, who went to L.A. High, and he came over to me and handed me this cigarette, and he knew I didn't smoke, you know. So, what's this? Yes, it's a reefer, man. It's like it's weed. What? Marijuana. Oh, okay. So. Take a hit, you know, okay. And it comes around again and take another hit. And by the 3rd time, yeah. And I remember thinking, what else have they been lying about?
Yeah. Serious.
Because it didn't resemble at all the horror stories that my dad had been telling me, you know. And so I said, and that started it, you know. I kind of I started rethinking everybody. And I'm the oldest baby boomer. The baby boom years started in 1946 when I was born. And so everything that was going to happen in the culture happened to me and my guys first. And because it was this giant generation, and that it was going to be like the pig that got swallowed by the python, you know. It's gonna look like a pig all the way through the python, you know. And so then I started getting, you know, into more politics, and there was protests going on, and the Vietnam War was starting to rage, and the thing that really separated everybody was the draft. You know, and it traditionally in American history or any history, the draft really separates everybody, man, because they have the ability to take your young ass from out of school and send you to a jungle somewhere thousands of miles away to fight for some cause that's not really clear. You know, nobody had bombed our Twin Towers or bombed Pearl Harbor or attacked us. They weren't coming ashore in Palos Verdes, you know. And and my whole generation started, well, what are we doing there? Is this the stop the domino theory? What's a domino theory, man? The spread of communism. Well, it's not spreading here in Granada Hills, you know.
Yeah.
And so a lot of revolutionary speakers came to my school to speak. There was Eldridge Cleaver, Reyes Tiarina, Timothy Leary, and who became a really good friend of mine later on, man. A great guy. And this man named David Harris, and he had come up with this idea of the draft resistance movement. And his concept was, in order to stop the draft, you can't participate. If you're under 18, don't sign up for the draft. If you've signed up for the draft, don't appear for physical. If they draft you, don't go. And it's just to clog the system and to stop this whole thing. And the symbolic movement was to hand in your draft card, thereby not recognizing the government's authority over you. And so, like, I did, you know. Yeah. And my draft card was really special because the week before, I had been to an anti-draft rally in Century City right here, it was a big deal. Johnson was going to speak in front of the Century City Hotel that had just been built, and it turned into a riot. But before that, in Rancho Park, all these speakers came, and the one speaker that everybody came to hear was Muhammad Ali. And he had just won the World Heavyweight Championship by beating the unbeatable Sonny Liston, you know? And he changed his name to he was already a Muslim, but he came out after winning the championship, and now he's Muhammad Ali, and he stood up on a truck on the back of a flatbed, and he was the most physically impressive person I'd ever seen in my life, because Muhammad Ali is big. I mean, you know, you over the years you think, but he's like almost 6'4", 6'5", somewhere, and just perfectly viewed and really handsome, bow tie and his suit, and he was so charismatic. He was the most charismatic guy, and he was talking and blah, blah, and at the end, everybody rushed up to shake his hand, and I handed him my draft card, and he signed it, M. Ali. M. Ali, I'm with you if you with me. That was the poetry of the man, and it's like, oh man, I got it. And so that's the card I handed in, and then that card was put on a collage that accompanied David Harris and his new wife Joan Baez on a speaking tour around the country, and it was on the cover of Newsweek magazine. And if you looked real close, you could see my draft card in the corner with M. Ali on it. Man, I was proud of that shit. that was the coolest.
So you dodged the draft and you left, no? You decided that you had to, because you had to leave LA, no? You had to leave your...
What happened was the director of the draft, General Hershey at that time, issued this directive that anybody who protested against the draft, caused demonstrations at the induction center, or just didn't do anything that he liked would be immediately reclassified, even though they were students, and drafted and sent to the front lines of Vietnam. That was his fix. Totally illegal, and everybody knew it was illegal, but you're going to spend 3 years in Leavenworth waiting for the decision to come down. And they just started sentencing the first leaders of the draft resistance movement to 8 years in Leavenworth. Coincidentally, as all good things happen, I discovered pottery in my last semester in college, you know. And it was like, you know, your last semester in college, you take all the classes you've been putting off for 4 years. You know, okay, Econ 101, sociology, you know, mathematics. And I had one space left, and there was this really cute girl that I had a class with the semester before, and she was in line with me as we were signing up. And I said, well, what are you taking? She goes, oh, I'm taking pottery. You know, there's one slot left. You should take it with me. You know? And, you know, it was like, you know, okay. And it totally changed my life. Totally changed my life. I got in the lab, and the first time I threw water clay on the wheel and centered it, it's like this tuning fork went off in my loins, man. It's like, because centering clay is like centering your life. It's like, it's a physical thing, and And at that point, my recessive Mexican genes came run. Yo, where you been, Holmes? Come on, get on him. We got orders. Let's go. Come on, start throwing. And that's, I swear, that's all I did. I quit the rest of my classes. I quit my job. I got a $900 NEDA loan and made pottery, you know. And at the same time, this draft thing was happening. They were after. I knew they were going to draft me. I knew they were going to change my classification, which they did, you know. And I was still in school, and all of a sudden I'm 1A, and so I was just waiting. And so my teacher in the pottery class, he knew what was up, and he said, I have this student who's living in Canada, and he's a big deal potter now, and maybe he needs an assistant, you know. So that's all it took. Yeah. And I gathered up as much $80, and I got a bus ticket and rode the dog to Calgary, you know. Yeah. And that was I'd left everybody that I knew, and I didn't know if I could ever come back. I didn't know anybody in Canada. I didn't even know how to speak Canadian, man. You know, it was like. I thought I was going to see Sergeant Preston and Eskimos, you know, and it looked like Bakersfield, you know. You know, it's a cattle and oil town. It's just northern Montana is all it is, you know. And I'd never seen snow ever in my life. And I got there, and it was the coldest winter in Calgary in 80 years. The high during January was 20 below.
I love this part because this Cheech, no, that leaves LA and goes to Canada turns out to be like this total like nature man, no? And I was like, how does this guy from South Central and Granada Hills like just go to the wild, you know?
I don't know, man. It just happened to be. I mean, I went up there, I had a little velour jacket, you know, from doing the twist or the frug or whatever that was, you know, like I was right from Hollywood and Vine, and man, it was cold up there. But I eventually went, and I was this guy's assistant. His name is Ed Hanchuk, and he had won the Bicentennial Exhibition Award in Canada the year that I got there. And he was a big deal, but he lived in the mountains, and it was really that kind of life. I lived in a little log cabin that I went to the river every day for my water. Chopped wood every day and cold. Had a potbelly stove, and I had electricity. That was cool. Yeah. But nothing else. Outhouse.
But I read that you guys skinned a bear or something. Yeah. You learned how to, shoot guns.
I'd never shot a gun in my life. My dad was a cop, and I never shot a gun in my life. And this guy was an avid hunter, and we were living in the foothills of the Rockies, man. And so every night after work, or it was still light, he'd take me out, and we'd go looking for deer, you know. And in the course of the year, we shot deer, a moose, in the middle of a muskeg. You know, a muskeg is like a frozen swamp, you know, and we shot him, and they couldn't get him out of there. Couldn't get him to come out. Shot him there, and it was frozen, you know, and so we had to out to get him, and I was okay. Grab that leg. Moose weighs 1,500 pounds. This dead moose won't go nowhere, man. You know? And says, well, we got to go back to the truck. Yeah, let's get out of here, man. No, we got to get the saw. What? Had a little power saw. Boom, we went back, cut the moose into 4 pieces, and piece by piece, we like a yoke. He had a little contraption, pulled him out there. And then one day he was out there throwing, and he comes running in, Ed, and he slams the door. And where's my gun, Ethel? Where's my gun? And he got this rifle, and here comes this bear. Yeah, and he's coming right for the door, and I'm sitting there rolling clay. What the fuck? And he left the door open, and the bear's going to come in the thing, and he got down on one knee, and pow, pops this bear, boom, over. And he said, I know. What? Kneading clay. I was just getting into, I'm a potter,
Yeah.
And so he said, okay, grab that back legs, and we'll take him. What do you mean grab it? Like, the bear is still twitching, and there's steam coming off him, like, no, come on, we're going to take him down to the gully there, and I'm going to show you how to skin him. Really? Got him, put a board up, strung him up. It's okay, the first cut goes like here. And I learned how to skin a bear there. Awesome. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm, Daniel Boone or some shit. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was great to read about that, about nature
Yeah,
Cheech,
I
no?
saw the aurora borealis one night. That it was like, I mean, you know, you see the aurora borealis from Northern Lights in like pictures, or you see it in like a little video, and it's some kind of like sheet lightning way off in the distance. This is like I stepped into this electric tent, and it was right over us, and it's like a big hole in the sky, and from this whole rays went all the way down to the ground, all over us, all around us, and it would go green, blue, yellow, purple. You know, it's like I was waiting for the saucers to land, you know, like, wow, and it was the most
That must have been really
transformative
good weed,
thing.
That's cool. So after this nature Cheech, no? You meet Chung. You meet Chung in Vancouver. So right, this is.
It was funny because I moved to the part of Calgary that Tommy Chong was born in, and it was real country, you know, and so I had a little sojourn up in Banff, Alberta, which is a beautiful national park, and you know, and I went up there to chill for a little while, and my buddies said, "Come on, we're going to teach you how to ski," you know. Yeah, like I knew how to ski really well, you know. And so they rented me some skis, got in there, and they showed me the snow plow and pushed me down. And that was great, man. You know, to tell you the truth, I could fast. I just couldn't stop. I didn't know how to stop. Hit a trench, came down, and broke my leg in half, like that, like a 7, like compound fracture. And I remember, you can go into two kinds of shock. You can go into a shock where, or you can go, so it's very cool, you know. And I went to the very cool part, you know, like. But I look back, and that's fucked up, you know. And that's like, your leg cannot get into that position without it being a compound fracture. And so then I was in the hospital, you know, for a month. They had to do 2 operations, and it would come in later. Well, I'll tell you about that when we get there. But you know, I was on crutches for 6 months, and then I decided to go to Vancouver. But while I was recuperating in Banff, I was living in this cabin with a girl from Huntington Beach. Yeah. And she took pity on me and let me live there. She was cool. And I was crutching around, and she only had 1 record in the house, and it was this album by Diana Ross and the Supremes, the Love Child album. Remember that? Love Child, always say. And there was this one song in this album called Does Your Mama Know About Me? And it was a cool song, and it was about a biracial love affair, and I used to play it over and over every day because it had great lyrics and beautiful melody, and I listened, and I thought, I wonder what brother wrote this song, because this is, I turned it over, it says, lyrics by T. Chong. What kind of name is that for a brother? Chong, man. All right. So eventually we made it to Vancouver, and I get introduced to Tommy Chong. You're the dude from Does Your Mama Know? Oh, man. And so we both had the same thought in our mind when we looked at each other, and it was, what the hell are you? Because he had never seen a Chicano before. And he was half Chinese, half English, Irish, hippie, you know. And he looked like a Mongolian biker, you know, kind of like long hair, and a jailhouse tattoo, leather pants, and big gap in his teeth. And we looked at it. And so Tommy he was with the first integrated band ever signed to Motown, Bobby Taylor and the Vancouvers, and they had this big hit, Does Your Mama Know About Me, which was a #1 R&B hit, and crossed over to the pop charts, and then it became a big gay hit, you know, Does Your Mama Know About Me,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And everybody recorded. It was a standard. Every bar band played during that era, and it was Diana Ross and the Supremes, Jermaine Jackson, Stephanie Mills, the Harlettes recorded it, and it was a big. And so, on the road, when Tommy was on the road with Motown, he had discovered improvisational theater. He saw in the Second City in Chicago, and the Committee in San Francisco. And so when he got fired from the band, his own band, you know, and he comes back to Vancouver, and Tommy always had started nightclubs when he was in Vancouver, so his bands would have some place to play. And so he left this last nightclub in the care of his parents, and they had turned it into Vancouver's first topless club, you know? And it was in the worst part of the city. I mean, I'm not like almost the worst, but it was the worst part of the city. Skid Row, Junkieville, Chinatown, a lot of people ODing on this. To this day, East Hastings is badass, you know? And so he was doing this, he decided to do improvisational theater, but with topless girls.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like naked improv, you know. So, and so I met him, and he's telling me this story, and I said, oh yeah, I'm a very famous improv actor from L.A. And I used to work with Instant Theater, and there was a place called Instant Theater here in Hollywood, and it was Horseshoe Theater. It was a Zephyr now, I think, but it was right on Melrose, and it was this improv thing. And Rachel Rosenthal, I don't know if anybody knows Rachel Rosenthal. Yeah, she's the grande dame of performance art. She invented it, and her husband King Moody, who was the original Ronald McDonald. Every commercial you see was King Moody. He was Ronald McDonald for like 10, 12 years. And they had this like weird improv, and I used to go there, and it was the weirdest thing I ever saw. And it was like, but it's cool. And you didn't know if it was scary too, because you didn't know if you were going to get out of there alive, man, because it was like, but I recognized right away, I can do this. I know I can do this, you know, just like I could sing, and I can do this. And so I told Tommy that I was this, you know, member of this troupe. That was my first improv. I improv'd a resume, you know. So he hired me as a writer for the group, and so I started writing a bit. And so picture this. I mean, this was a rough club. There was a guy killed in the club. I was there, and it was like a lot of hookers, and that was their office. And it was bikers and loggers and Hell's Angels, and because it was the only place you could see naked girls, and they would drink and he turned it into this improv nightclub without telling anybody, you know. And he just started, and we had a mime artist was part of the troupe, white-faced, a beret, you know, striped, all that running in place. And the bikers would look at him, huh? The fuck is that, you know? And a classical guitarist, you know? And they just, and then they would send out the dancers, you know, and then they would come, and then they would have these little real rudimentary skits, you know, funny, but the skits would always end up with the girls getting naked, you know, because Tommy noticed, and it's when the girls first came to work, they were really foxy and sexy, and they were young hippie girls from the streets and hip huggers and crop tops, and they were like fine. And when they got all their stripper gear on, nobody even looked at them. All these guys, they would just drink, and so he started them off fully dressed on the stage and talking, and they just. And then they started in the course of the skit start taking off their clothes, and you could hear a pin drop in this place. Every prurient interest of every guy and girl in the club was like boom, and then we started doing these comedy bits. And what I realized after a little while that we were doing hippie burlesque. And that's what it was. It was burlesque, classic burlesque, comics. And strippers and it was the wildest thing. And we do 4 hours of improv a night, 6 nights a week, and nobody could say shit because we owned the club, you know.
That's awesome.
And
so
it was
this
wild.
is kind of like your, I guess, like the incubator of what Cheech and Chong was gonna be.
Exactly.
Like this is where you guys tried everything.
We tried everything, and we learned how to act on stage. And it was, I mean, guys would try to beat us up all the time, you know. You get too drunk. Hey, I thought we want tits, get on my, you know.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, they would climb on stage, and the only thing that saved us was Tommy's brother Stan, who was a killer. I mean, he would, I'll tell you about Stan. He had glasses, you know, and he was real slope-shouldered, you know, and he was complaining one day to me, my knuckle hurts. I know my hand hurts. And he kept bitching about it all day. And so Tommy said, well, here, man, I'll give you $20. Go to the doctor, see what's wrong. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor examines him and goes, well, Mr. Chong, it seems you have a tooth embedded in your knuckle here. Yeah, it kind of hurt, you know. No shit.
Watch out with
but
Stan.
we used to do all this improv every night in the rough for audience that just didn't want to see you, man. But after a while, they started getting into it, you know, because there was some funny stuff, and it was amazing.
I really liked that you guys went to this Battle of the Bands or something, no? That you talked about you guys did this Battle of the Bands in Vancouver, and that's when you guys felt like, all right, we're gonna like leave the band on the side and we're gonna become a duo, and you guys felt like something was going on. How was that feeling? How was that? Like
it was strange because the troupe broke up. You know, everybody in the troupe, they were young hippies, and they wanted to go to the hills to get their heads together, you know. And I had been to the hills. My head was together. My wallet wasn't together, you know. And I needed to, you know, how to make a living, you know. And so Tommy came up with, okay, well, you're a singer, and I'm a guitar player. We'll form a band, and we'll do R&B and these skits, you know, back and forth, and we'll be like a lounge act. Maybe we'll play Vegas one day. Wow, Vegas, no shit, you know? Okay, and so our first gig, and we got the band, and we rehearsed, and we went on stage. It was a battle of the bands in Vancouver, and all the bands were playing like Led Zeppelin, and they were these kind of Black Sabbath. No, Black Sabbath wasn't around yet. All those kind of bands, you know, hard rock. And then we introduced us, and we came out and we started doing these skits for the bands all together, ready, and we started doing these skits, and it stopped the place. And people started coming from all over the auditorium. You could see them, you know, and they pushed their way to the front of the stage because they wanted to hear what we were doing. And we were them, really, but they would have never come down to the Shanghai Junk and to our club. Nobody of this audience would ever go down there. It was like taking your life in your hands. Yeah. But we were them. And so we won the Battle of the Bands. We didn't play a note.
That's what I thought was awesome. You guys you guys were a band, but it was like...
Yeah, well, we were a band. We had guys standing there, ready to go.
So you guys win the Battle of the Bands, and you decide you guys got to see this through and grow, no? And you guys decide...
we had to decide we wanted to make it in show business. We had to go to New York or L.A. Mm-hmm. New York was cold. I didn't know nobody. I was from L.A., and it was warm. But the only fly in the ointment was I was wanted by the FBI, you know? So I snuck back across the border using my friend Bill Norris' ID, his driver's license, with his picture on it. Put it up next to the guy. And we're both kind of brown, you know? And I go, yeah, okay, go ahead. You know, this was the day before computers, man, you know? Like, all right. And had some. I told him that I was a rock journalist, which I was, and I was going down to L.A. to interview Jefferson Airplane and Grateful Dead, and to convince him that I was a journalist, I downed 3 double vodkas, you know, so I breathed on him. Oh yeah, he's a journalist. Okay. And I came. Tommy and I came to L.A. and we started looking around, and what we played when we first got into L.A. was all black clubs. Because there was a big black nightclub circuit in L.A. that, you know, white audience didn't have any idea about, but they were big clubs, and we played all of them, you know, and because of both our backgrounds. I had grown up in black culture. Tommy too had grown up in. He found the only black people in Calgary, you know, and he was an R&B guitarist. And so we started looking for gigs, and we played the York Club, the Mavericks Flats, the Climax 2. There was this club in Hollywood called the Climax 2. The Climax 1 was the same club, but under new management, and you know, now it's the Climax 2. You know, okay. And it was this big after-hours club that had every weirdo in Hollywood because it was open it opened at midnight. And so the Climax 2 difference was they were gonna have live entertainment, you know, in the Climax 2. And it's right where the Beverly Center is now. It's right there. It was the Millionaires Club. I don't know anybody remembers. It was this big Millionaires Club. And so every night on stage you could see Ralph Mathis, who was Johnny Mathis's look-alike brother, sang all of Johnny's tunes. This new comedy team, Cheech and Chong, every night, and this brand new band called Earth, Wind and Fire. Every night on stage. And you saw all of us evolve night after night after night after, and Maurice and Verdine, the brothers, and they started off. Sometimes there would be 15 people on stage and a choir, and over the time you saw them, working out who they were, But every night at the climax too, and so, but during the off hours when we weren't, because the black clubs paid money. Because they had this whole format. A professional MC would introduce a professional comedian who would introduce a floor show. And at the white clubs, they want to do Hootenanny Night forever. And they didn't pay dick, man. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, but you got exposure,
Oh,
You
yes.
could die of exposure,
Playing for exposure. I love those gigs.
But eventually, at the Troubadour, we got discovered by this guy named Lou Adler.
Yeah.
And he was the biggest record producer. Let me hear it for Lou over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about Lou Adler.
Louis was the biggest record producer in the world at that time. He produced Sam Cooke and Johnny Rivers and Spirit and had Dunhill Records. He produced Monterey Pop, which introduced Jimi Hendrix and The Who and Janis Joplin and all those guys. And he was from East LA, from Boyle Heights. And he saw our act. Hey. I don't know what race Boyle Heights is now, but at that time when he lived there, it was all Jewish. It was the Jewish neighborhood of East LA. And he saw us, and right away he knew what we were doing with the lowriders and stuff. And so he sent this girl, Dinah Shore's daughter, Missy Montgomery, tell these guys I saw him and I wanted to talk to him. So she did. So Tommy didn't know who Lou Adler was, so I knew exactly who Lou Adler was. And so we went to his office the next day, and we go in his office, and there's like gold records everywhere. I mean, they're all up and down every wall on the ceiling. They're laying against the wall, and we're looking around, and to survive in those days when we didn't have a gig, we collected pop bottles for the 5 cents deposit. And every day we'd walk around the neighborhoods looking for a gig. We had this little wagon with us. And go on an empty lot, you find 4 pop bottles. That was a big day, and put them on. And we get to the store and turn them in. And then we had to make $1.50 every day, because with $1.50 we could make some kind of beef and greens or with rice, and we could live. And so he says, "Well, what do you guys want to do?" I said, "Well, look around. Well, make a record. Well, what kind of record? Gold. That seems to be what you make. So we want to go make a gold record, And so he said, all right. So and in those days, like the San Francisco bands were getting like $100,000 to sign. We could live for the rest of our lives on $100,000, man. And so he offered us $2,000. Actually, he offered $1,000.
Yeah.
And Tommy was ready to sign. I said, wait a minute. Mr. Adler, there's 2 of us. And so we'll need $2,000. Okay. And so he signed us up, we needed a little tape recorder, one little cassette recorders, to record what we were doing. And so he sent us to this little mix down room. And so we had to figure out how to convert our stage act, which was totally visual, into records, which was audio. And so in that process, we learned how to do stuff that sounded funny. Rather than make a face, you had to make a funny sound effect, And then we learned very quickly that some knives being thrown into a blackboard are funnier than others, No, that's too funny. Oh, that's the one, And so we recorded all our own sound effects, and we started doing this thing, and our contemporaries, George Carlin, Lily Tomlin, Steve Martin, Richard Pryor, their records consisted of their live act, which was recorded. And so there was a soundtrack to it, a laugh track. You knew when to, and we went into the studio and started doing these scenes, with a lot of atmosphere, a lot of sound effects, but mostly atmosphere. And I was greatly influenced by this guy named Ken Nordine. And he made this series of records in the early 60s, 1959, right, called Word Jazz. And he would take you into this world of Ken Nordine. And so we started using this process and improvising. We'd go into the studio with, okay, you're this guy, and I'm this guy, and we're in this situation. And we go. But we had been doing it for 4 hours a night, every night for, so we knew how to do that. And we looked around in the streets, what was happening, and and we started doing these records, man. And one of our most famous bits, Dave's Not Here, or Dave.
I love that.
Let's go.
Yeah.
It was how we tripped onto this method, because we were in our little studio. It was actually, we were on the Charlie Chaplin studios where A&M Records was. So the Charlie Chaplin's ghost must have been there somewhere. And we were in this projection room that he had. And so we're going to start the first thing, and we're going to do this bit where a guy knocks on the door, he comes in, he's going to apply for a job that he doesn't really want. That was the premise. And so Tommy's inside, he's the guy, and he says, well, get into the character. Let him put the hat on and the coat, and it's like August, and it's like 120 out there. Okay, well, all right. And so, and we're in the courtyard of A&M Records, and nobody knew who we were. They were like, they didn't even know that Lou had signed us. They'd seen us walking around a couple times, and so I go out there, and I knock on the door, and nobody answers. Knock on the door, and I say, who is it? Who is it? Not supposed to say who is it. You're supposed to say come in, and we start the bit. and so what Tommy was doing, he was looking at the cassette recorder and wanted to see if it was working, if the needle was moving, and he couldn't. And so he kept saying, "Who is it?" to see if. And so my improv training kicked in. It's me, Dave. And he goes, Dave? Yeah, Dave, come on, open the door. Look. And Dave, and then he saw that, heard that I was getting mad, and so he started fucking with me, man. Which is Tommy Tong trait.
Yeah.
And so he said, he kept doing that. And like, Dave, Dave, no, Dave's not here. And I could hear him laughing inside, man. I'm in character, all right, And I kept, and then we did the bit, and he kept doing that. And then he opens the door, and he's laughing his ass off. And I said, man, what the fuck are you doing, man? It's hot out here. I don't understand. And people are looking at us. They didn't know, and I'm yelling at him, and they we better call security, man. He's two hippies out here, and they don't, And he said, you got to hear this. And he played it for me, and I just fell on the floor laughing, man. This is like, because it was so spontaneous. It was just, there was no, dun, 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 dun. It was free jazz. And because we were musicians, we knew when to shut up, when to come in on the beat, And we took it up to Lou and played it for him. And he laughed his ass off. And, okay, we got something here. And so then we had to go into the recording studio that night, a real recording, and record it again. Nowhere near what we did that afternoon, but it became a big hit. And it set this picture of who these guys are. And we never said that we were a Chicano Chinese, Chino Latino comedy team, but everybody else knew it, And we were just these two, what we thought were street hippies. And that's who we were, because we were greaser hippies. We weren't like, these kind of psychedelic, hippies, although we did plenty of psychedelic. But that's how we started.
Yeah, and you guys, I mean, man, you guys record, your first album, and then you guys venture out into movies,
We traveled
Up in Smoke. I mean, you guys went on tour, hit the road for years.
Everywhere. We used to play 280 to 310 days a year.
Did you like it? Did you like touring?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
No, because some people don't like it. I've asked other musicians, and they're like, yeah, I don't like it. I'm like, I fucking love it.
Yeah, me too, man.
I'm home, and I'm like, when are we going on tour? It's time to
go. And it was in the days where FM radio was starting to really be the deal, and it was starting to break all over the U.S. And our album was like, it was causing a sensation in this kind of underground FM thing. So we were like these real cult, but the record preceded us, you know, and we were starting to get a lot of attention. And we're making money, you know. It's like, how can you not? I was 24, you know, single, and traveling from around. Dang, you know.
We don't get that kind of recording sales anymore, man.
No.
I mean, no, it's not like that anymore.
No, it's all online, man. But we were selling a lot of records, and we were playing all these. We would go out for 3 months at one time, and come back for 10 days, and go out for another 3 months without coming home. And we did that until, you know, we had to do operations, you know.
Yeah.
I had to get a knee, and he had to get more teeth, and, you know. Yeah.
Okay, so, man, we could go on forever, and we've only hit like a little bit of your
go to
life.
some place that you want to look
Of your
at
life.
thing,
Well, it's time for Q&A. No, we should.
Music?
It's time. Oh, you guys want music? Yeah, we're gonna have music, but
Well, we got music for
we got music, we got Q&A, we got it all. Yeah.
So, what do you want to do first?
I don't know. You want to play? You want us to play something? You want to ask some questions?
Let's play some.
I mean, we
What
could be
song do
here
you
all
want to
night.
play first? We've rehearsed this a little bit.
Well, I like how you talked about how you first met Chong and off that
Does your
record.
mama-
No.
We're going to play the first inkling I ever got that this man named Tommy Chong existed in Calgary and Banff. And it's a song called Does Your Mama Know About Me? And we're going to play it for you right now.
All right.
Does your mama know about me? Does she know just what I am? Will she turn her back on me or accept me as a man?
And what about your dad? Did you think of what you'll say? Will he be understanding? Or does he think the usual way? Maybe I shouldn't worry.
But I've been through this before, and I'd like to get things straight before I'm knocking on your door. Does your mama know about me? Does she know just what I am? And if she says forget about me, do you think you really can? And what about your friends? Don't you care what people say? Will you accept the burden? I know will surely come our way. Well, maybe I shouldn't worry, but I've been through this before, and I'd like to get things straight before I'm knocking on your door. Does your mama know about me? Does she know just what I am? And if she says forget about me, do you think you really can? Oh, we've got to stand tall, can't stumble or fall. We've got to be strong, 'cause love that's so right can't be wrong. And every day I see it grow, and I don't want to let it go. And that's why I've got to know, does your mama know about me? Oh, does your mama know about me? Does your mama know about me? Yeah, my mama know about you. What other sections did you want to know? Well, Tommy and I went on for a long time, and then we had hit records and gold records and 3 #1 albums in a row, and countless road appearances, and it's all in the book.
It's all in the book, guys.
That you can purchase in the
Anything we didn't cover tonight,
it's
in the book.
And then we, after a while, we came to the decision we had to do something else because, and we decided we have to do movies. All great comedy teams did movies. Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, Martin and Lewis. They did movies if they were going to go on to the next thing.
I think Up in Smoke is like
Yeah.
one of my all-time favorite,
You know?
favorite stoner movies.
Yeah.
But you know what? You did all these things with Chong, and you talk about how you kind of distance yourselves. I mean, you guys were together for like 17 years,
Yeah.
every day. But I also loved reading about you know, like you leave the band, you know, in a way, and you go
Yeah.
solo, no?
Yeah, it was, we lived with each other, basically. I mean, not physically, but on the road with each other 24/7, 7 days a week for years and years and years. And as success grew, each individual picture of ourselves, became inflated, And after a while, it was 17 years with the same guy. He felt the same way. We couldn't stand each other anymore. We were not best friends. We were brothers. And with your brothers, you can hate your brother, you can love your brother, you can fight with them, you can get along, but you always got his back.
Totally.
I
mean, I get it.
Yeah,
I've been in our band for 10 years. I mean, it's not 17 years or more, no, but yeah, it's definitely like a brotherhood, and sometimes you hate each other and you can't stand each other, but...
And we always argued, because that's the creative process. It's the irritant that produced the pearl. But we always, and then all of a sudden, movies is divided up into work categories, and they're very jealously guarded. The director is his own category, and he's the guy that. But we always wrote and directed together. But after a while, Tommy wanted to be the director and the only writer, and he kept distancing me. Didn't want to write with me anymore.
But I love that how you were like, you know what, I don't care if like you take the title of the director, I just want to make a good movie. Yeah. And I think that's really cool because you don't let your ego get in the way of the work.
Well, I'm sure I did at some point.
I mean, I'm sure, but that matters more, no? To get the job done, to do the work, no?
Well, he's a
rather than the title, no?
Yeah, the title didn't really.
There is no title if there's no work.
I didn't care about the title. I just wanted to make funny movies, and Tommy wanted to be recognized as a creative force, because he played this man character, who was like, hey man, and he wanted to. Very early in our process, that reared its head because he said, the next thing I'm in, I'm going to have my name in the title. So they can't replace me. Because there'll only be one. And he was Little Daddy in The Bachelors, he was a bachelor. He was the Shades, he was a shade. Yeah. Bobby Taylor in the Vancouvers, he was a Vancouver.
Yeah.
And now he was going to be, and that's how we got our name. Because when we won the Battle of the Bands, we were Tommy Chong and the Shanghai Junk. Because that's the name of the club that we came from in Vancouver, the Shanghai Junk. And so the band got fired, and it was just Tommy Chong, and I guess I was a Shanghai Junk, So, so I don't know if this is gonna work. And so, and he says, so we're in the car after we won the battle, and we're going. It was his dad's car, and it rains in Vancouver every day, So you have to have windshield wipers, and we had windshield wipers. They just didn't work, And so he had straightened out a wire coat hanger, straightened out, and came out of the car, attached to the windshield wipers, and you did it by hand, I swear to God. And we're going across the Georgia Viaduct Bridge, which was a condemned bridge with a sign, proceed at your own risk, And he says, we got to have a name. So we talk, Richard and Tommy, Chong and Marin, and he says, well, do you have a nickname? I said, well, in my family, they call me Cheech. And he goes, Cheech, Chong, Cheech and Chong. And that's what it was. It was never Chong and Cheech, because as musicians, we recognized that sound scanned. Yeah. Cheech and Chong. It was like, okay, we're going to be big, man. We're going to get wipers that work, everything, man.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome, man.
And, through thick and thin, we were always there. But then, he wanted to be recognized. And he wanted to, and so I, and you'll read it in my new book here.
Yes.
Available. What exactly when then I went out.
I wanna talk about Born in East LA.
Ah,
because like, I mean, Yeah, Up in Smoke, I was a little older. I was a stoner, you know, like it was awesome. But Born in East LA for me as a kid was like everything. Like I finally saw, I understood it. Like I saw my family there. I saw a lot of our reality, you know, and it was awesome to see this Chicano hero, no, and then crossing the border, and I mean it was. You were like my childhood hero, so I was, and you still are. But but tell me about that, because I mean, you wrote that, you directed that, you acted in that, and that was after. I mean, did you feel when the chapter of Cheech and Chong ended for that time? Did you feel insecure? Were you like, shit, what am I gonna do now?
Not at all.
No?
No, really. I was fully confident that I could do it because it's what I had been doing. You know, I didn't get credit for directing. I got credit for writing, but I didn't. But I knew I could do it because I had been doing it. I wasn't fearful. It was just a daunting task, you know, to write, direct, and star in a movie by yourself. God damn, man. It's like at some point in any movie, the director throws up his hands. I don't know what I'm doing, you know. You know, really, and it was really hard. But I knew that the story was strong, and it was verified. We were making an album, our last album, and then Tommy was living in Paris, and I couldn't get him to come back, and I discovered MTV. MTV came out for the first time, and I was watching it, and my partnership had broke up, and my marriage is broken up, and I just sat out in my house in Malibu and smoked dope and played guitar, all this, like, what the fuck, you know, and then MTV came out, and I was watching this, and I go, this is perfect for us. We're filmmakers, we're songwriters, we're comedians. This is perfect. We'll make video albums, you know, we'll have things. Got a deal, called Tommy in Paris, and I talked to him, and blah, blah, blah. Hey, man, I got this deal, and we could make video albums, and blah, 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 and nothing. Yeah. You know, and I says, yeah, well, we have MTV here in France. Well, okay. You know, and it's, well, I'm going to do this. Well, you're into video and I'm into film. You know, que me mamas, cabrón. You know,
que mamón.
You know, I said, well, come on, man, do this with me and come back so we finally. And I needed to have one more song, you know, and I was sitting in the kitchen drinking morning coffee and reading the newspaper, and the radio was playing, and I was reading a story about this young kid here in LA. He was like 12, around there, and he had some mental retardation, and he couldn't speak very well, and he couldn't speak English, and he got caught in an immigration raid, and they thought he was illegal, and they deported him to TJ, and unbeknownst to his parents, they looked for a month. He was on the streets of TJ by himself, this poor kid, and nobody knew where he was. They finally found him. And at the same time, Bruce Springsteen's song, Born in the USA, was playing on the radio. I'm reading this, poor kid, he was born in East LA. And so I didn't know what the song Born in East LA was about. I mean, Born in USA was about. I just remember every once in a while we say, Born in East LA, you know, Born in USA. So I had to go down to the record store to get the record and this is about returning Vietnam vets and blah, blah, blah. And I had to get permission to parody it, you know. And I thought, well, Bruce Springsteen's cool, man. He's gonna give me, and he turned out to be cool. You had to find him, you know, because he was all over the world. But the very first time Bruce Springsteen ever played with a band, he was a folk singer kind of that, and made one or two albums. But the first time he ever played with a band, he opened for Cheech and Chong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, cool, man. So I recorded the song, and Tommy didn't want to show up to do the song. Yeah. And he, come on, man, we got to do the middle part where the cop and the thing. No, it's your song, man. You do it. And you're not coming in? No. It just.
A friend says, like saladitos in my wounds.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, ouch, man.
You know, come on, dude. Okay. And I wasn't so much mad as I was really sad.
Yeah,
I was really sad.
Course.
Like, oh. So the engineer says, well, what are we going to do? All right, I'm going to go finish the song, and I did. And so then we had to make the videos, the video for the song as per plan, and he wasn't in the song, so it wasn't on the video. The video came out, and it was a giant success on MTV. You know, and it was a #1 video, and at the same time, the head of Universal Studios, Frank Price, who had made a couple movies with it, got shown the video by Irving Azoff, who was the head of the record company, and he called me and he says, "There's a movie in here, and I want you to make it, but it's only you, because it's not a drug movie. It's not, but and if you want to do it, I'm doing it." And came to Tommy and told him I'm going to do this movie. I still want to make movies with you, but I'm going to do this movie, and that was it. And I went.
Yeah.
I hadn't made Born in East LA, and it was a big success. And you know, it was really a turning point. And then I started. I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to have this argument anymore. It was soul destroying, and so I decided, well, I'll just go on my own and see what happens. It's like I've done everything else. You know, you go out there and see what happens, and it turned out really good. You know?
Yeah, that's what I get a lot about this book. That you seem like a person that's very focused, but a person that's also like you let life lead you, and you work with what you have, and you go. And it's a very positive book, and it's very fun. So don't forget to get it. No? On the way out.
I think the most important thing in life, man, is to be centered.
Yeah.
And whatever you do to be centered every day, whether you meditate or do Tai Chi or smoke dope or quien sabe qué, be centered, to be in tune. It's what Catholics call it the state of grace. And it's not no anxiety about the future and no regrets about the past. You're living in the moment. And you make decisions based upon that. And it becomes very clear. And it becomes very natural. And and the right decision automatically appears, you know, and I've done that all my life, and so this was, you know, it was one of those things, man. And it's like where we're going, and we years later, after you know, we've been separate. We were separated for 20 years after we had been together for 17 years, and then we got back together because the one thing we tried to get back together a bunch of times, but it was always an argument about who's going to direct and who's going to. And you know, and so we never did. But the one thing that we never argued about was being on stage, because you get on stage, and if they laugh, it's funny, and if they don't, it's not.
Right.
There's no philosophical, you know.
Yeah.
You can think it's funny, or you want it to be funny, but they don't laugh, and that requires laughter for it to be funny, you know. And so when we got on stage, it was like we had never been off stage. We'd been off stage for 20 seconds, not 20 years. And I thought at that point, like, this is part of my DNA, you know, so why fight it, you know? And we've been touring the last almost 9 years together, you know?
That's great.
Yeah, it's
It's great to see that you guys are back together, too, no?
Yeah, and we have fun, and we still, like, you know, it was always tough. But as you get older and you kind of, you know, the light of the tunnel gets closer, kind of, you know, you don't want to waste your time doing that. So that's not what we do. So aquí estamos.
Eso. Okay, so now we have to have Q&A. We're having Q&A now.
Yeah, I'm curious, having been part of that draft generation too, did the FBI ever come knocking?
Yeah, at my mother's house, but I wasn't there. They would come by my mother's house all the time, so I couldn't, you know, when I came back to LA and I needed a place to stay, and then I was going to go to my mother's house, and so, and Tommy used to say up from the stage, hey, you know, he's wanted by the FBI, you know. Oh, that's really fucking funny, dude, you know. Because there was no bullshit. But eventually, my case went to the Court of Appeals, U.S. Well, I don't know what circuit it was, what we were in, but the case went, and I got thrown out, just like, because it was obviously a violation of the First Amendment, you know, for my political opinion, and so I wasn't drafted. But the next day, I got a notice to appear for physical. Because by that time, computers were in, you know, and they tracked my ass down, you know, to my mother's house, and she called, there's a letter here for you, okay. And so I went and got it, and there was a notice to appear for physical. So I sent up to Canada for my X-rays of my, and I got a doctor's notice, and I went in to the physical, and I had them under my arm, and I was in there in my chonies, man, you know, following the red line, following the blue line, and the doctor came out, to take a smoke for a break, you know? And he sees me over there, and he looks at my leg, and he goes, "You come here," and I says, what do you got there? I said, "My x-rays." Let me take a look at him. Looks at him. "All right, come here." Takes me into his office. "You have a 6-degree angle of distortion in your leg, and I have some very bad news for you. You're not going to be eligible for the Army." "Oh, really?" "All my life I want." You know?
We got another question over here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you both for being here. Tell us a little bit about your world-renowned Chicano Latino art collection.
Oh,
Yes.
man, you know, thank you very much. That is the gift that keeps on giving. I got some really big news today, this offer that is going to really change. I mean, I can't tell you about it, but it's but look for it really quick. It's a landmark decision in Chicano art. And when I was a kid with my little group of cousins, you know, they were really smart, and Louis, my mentor, and he would assign us topics. Okay, Regine, my cousin Regine Castro was the first PhD in Chicano studies from Harvard. Yeah, and he was our group, and me and my cousin Louis, who was the most brilliant kid I ever met. He got a scholarship to grade school. St. Cecilia's. Here in LA, St. Cecilia's, yeah, got a scholarship to high school, to college, a state scholar, went to SC, joined the Air Force, got sent to the University of Tokyo, and and we played some form of Jeopardy all the time. You know, it was a college bowl then, and he would set up these quizzes, and we'd drill us, and Regine, you got medieval history, Lali, you've got science, and Cheech, you got art, learn about art, and you bring it back to the group, and you show everybody, and then and so, okay, art, and so I went down to the library, and I took out all the art books. I was thinking 11, you know, and I started doing that, and I go, okay, that's Cézanne, wow, that's Miro, that's Picasso, that's Rembrandt, that's, you know, and I learned world art. And so years later, the gap in my knowledge was contemporary art. I didn't know anything about contemporary. I knew some names, but I didn't really know so I started going to galleries on the west side of LA, and that's where I discovered these Chicano painters. And I knew what good painting was, because I'd seen it all my life. And I said, wow, these guys it's like finding the Beatles again. Hey, there's some Chuck Berry in there, and there's some Carl Perkins in there, and some Miro in there, and I said, wow, these guys are really good, you know. And so I had money, you know, and it was a perfect storm. I knew what the art was, I had money to collect it, and I have notoriety in order to promote it. And so that's what I started doing, and I started collecting, and one thing led to another, and I put together this big collection. But right away, I knew it wasn't just something that I wanted to hang over the couch. I wanted to share this with everybody, and I started touring the art, and we've played in over 50 museums with this over 30 years with this collection. Yeah. And it is an American school of art as important as any school of art that has ever existed in this country.
Of course.
And it's being recognized step by step. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, Cheech, I think you're great. I still have your Big Bamboo album at home.
I still got your money, too.
I'd like to know how it was working with Quentin Tarantino in From Dusk Till Dawn, because that was a great movie you were in.
Yeah, he's a character. Robert Rodriguez and I have made 8 movies together. He was that next generation of kids that grew up on Cheech and Chong, their records, or seeing the movies, and they became directors. You know, and it wasn't just, it was Tarantino and him, Robert, but all the black guys too. Ice Cube and Ice-T and everything with an ice in it, black guy. Chris Tucker, all those guys grew up on Cheech and Chong. What's the guy's name on TV that did Friday? No, later or earlier. the guys on TV. No, it was. We were there. Anyways, this guy. And they all grew up on Cheech and Chong. And so when Robert got to the stage where he was going to make movies, I met him, and then he said, I'm going to make a movie. I want you to be in the movie. And so, you don't take anything for granted, ever. So, okay, well, good kid, as soon as you get the money. And then he got the money and made a movie. And so we were in that first, in Desperado. And so every time I heard he was going to make another movie, I would call him up, hey, Robert, how you doing? How's my part coming? Every movie, I would call him, how's my part coming? And, and he would put me in some, and it was great, and after a while, I would get killed in every one of his movies. Every one. And I said, Robert, when you kill me in your movie, your movie's over, so you might want to kill me later in the movie, And so he did. In Machete, I got introduced halfway through, and then I got killed later, Crucified. I thought that was a nice touch,
Yeah.
But all those are the great, and they worked. You saw how they worked. They worked in that same improvisational style, Some of it was more written than others, but Robert operated still does to this day, operates the camera. He's the cameraman on his movies. Not only wrote it and directed, but so he's looking through the lens as he's talking to you, and he's okay. Make a bigger face. Do that. Look away over to there, or and he give me like your mother just walked in and saw. And then he's talking to me while I'm doing it. So I realized after a while, so I got to go make faces for Robert, So okay, and so that was the deal.
That's cool.
Next question.
Yeah. Next question.
Hi. So, Cheech, I got to meet you at a community event about 10 years ago, and I was very polite and very bland. And what I was busting to say and didn't was Santa Claus and His Old Lady is one of the truly great comedy routines ever. I mean, there's not a flat note in it. It's like the Santa Claus story as told by this character, this young urban counterculture male. You might talk about it in the book. I will look into that.
It's in this book here, right here.
But could you talk? But just to tide me over, could you talk a little bit about the idea for the bit, how you went about it, what was it like writing it, recording it?
It was there again, Like I have this philosophy that I'm a Chicano and I have to have 3 jobs at all time, And my dad raised me that way, and he always had 3 jobs. He wasn't just a cop. He delivered eggs and worked at the Times and was a security guard at a roller rink, And so I had to. So Adler comes out after our first album comes out, and it's on the radio, but it's on FM, and it wasn't the big giant commercial juggernaut that AM was. And he says, well, "You guys got anything for AM? And it's getting near Christmas. You got anything for Christmas?" "Sure, man, we got stuff for Christmas. We're Chicanos, man." And so we went into the studio. I swear to God, this is how it happened. We went into the studio, and Tom said, "Okay, we're musicians." And I'm like a guitar player, and I don't know who Santa Claus is. And you got to tell me. Okay, go. And we just improv'd it. And I think we did it twice. That's it. And it was like, that was it, And we took it up to Adler, and he listened to it, and he goes, I'll get right back to you. And so he had Clarence McDonald, this really wonderful studio musician, write this little jazz track to it, And it was so good that you didn't even hear it. That's a good track, where the background, it's just this part of the story. And it became a giant hit right away, man. It became a Christmas classic, and it was and it propelled us into AM radio. And then, boom, then it started really picking up speed, But it was improv.
We have time for one more question.
Sure.
I hope it's a good one. Hello?
Me too.
So, Marisol, I met you maybe 6 years ago over at Flavio and Laura's backyard party.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's amazing to see you on YouTube, Facebook, and seeing you on stage right now.
Oh, thank you, man.
And
Gracias.
yeah.
Let me say this at this point. This girl is a great singer.
Yes, she is.
Really. I mean, a great singer. Singers are born. Really, they're born singers. They can get better stronger or more articulation or whatever, but they're born and they sing from the time they get up to the time they go to bed. Isn't that right?
It happens,
That's it.
It's a two-part question.
Okay.
Or conversation. Cheech, I met you maybe 28 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I
over
remember.
Yeah, and I remember what you're wearing. It was at not Atomic Cafe, at Troy's Cafe with Sean and Bibby, and you walked in. We hung out for a few moments. I think I served you chocolate cake.
No, I think it was red velvet.
Possibly. And the question is, boxers or briefs?
Thong, honey. No, briefs, man. I know you know. I know it's briefs, man. Girls always, when do you wear those? Those are cool. No, I was an athlete, so. Anybody?
Hi, Cheech. I think we're done with the questions now. But
Want to sing another song?
yeah, let's do another song. Well, I think this is the end of our conversation. But yeah, it is. But wait, because Cheech is gonna sign books. He's gonna have a book signing right after this, so you guys could go get your book signed.
Looks like that.
It looks just not as tattered, not as messed up as this one, because this one's been on the road with me. But hey, I read it, man.
All right, did you?
But wow. There's a lot of things that we didn't talk about your career and all. I mean, you wrote children's books. You starred in other movies, and I mean, you were in The Lion King. You did classic animated movies. So there's so much more to Cheech, no? And I thank you for this time and for sharing all these awesome stories
thank you.
With us.
Thanks for coming down here. Appreciate it.
Anything we didn't touch on is right here.
Is it right there in this book?
Is right aquí.
Hold it up again for them.
Aquí.
See, there we go. Okay. Looks good. Cheech is
Okay.
not my real name, but don't call me Chong. Okay.
Yes.
And this is, I would like to close with this song, and it's a song of my people, and I hope you like it. Mexican Americans don't like to just get into gang fights. They like flowers and music and white girls named Debbie too.
Mexican Americans love education, so they get up early and go to night school and take Spanish and get a B.
Yeah. Mexican Americans love their nanas, and their nonos, and their ninas, and their ninos, nano, nina, no.
Mexican Americans don't like to wake up early in the morning, but they have to, so they do it real slow.
Mexican Americans are named Chata and Chela and Cheech and Chema
and Chemitita
and little Chema and have a son-in-law named Jeff. Mexican Americans
don't like to go to the movies because the dude has to wear contact lenses to
make his blue eyes brown, because don't they make my brown eyes blue? Mexican Americans live in Los Angeles, San Diego, San Antonio, San Francisco, and now all over Delaware.
And Minnesota too.
Mexican Americans have been here forever, and we're going to be here forever, and we only want whatever you think is fair. Mexican Americans!
Eso!